In this research video article one will contrast the two low-carb mindsets, and as a bonus article one will show you the Atkins diet health risks. What nobody tells you. If this is your first time in the channel, hit the subscribe button and the notification bell, that way you won't miss any of the research health investigation topics articles. Low Carb Stupidity vs. Low Carb Intelligence. Low Carb Stupidity, believing that carrots, bananas or tomatoes are fattening because they're high on the glycemic index and because a popular fad diet book says so. Low Carb Intelligence. Have Americans lost any remaining grip with common sense? With an average banana coming in at 120 calories, do you really think that this yellow, nutrient-dense, low-calorie, all-natural, straight-out-of-the-ground fruit is going to make you fat? Compare that to the average serving of salad dressing, which clocks in at over 160 calories with absolutely no redeeming nutritional value. Perhaps carrots, bananas and tomatoes have 5 to 10 more calories per serving than broccoli or cucumbers, but try them against a low-carb bar, which clock in at typically over 200. Low Carb Stupidity, believing calories don't count if you just count carb grams. Didn't we go through this years ago when we were a nation of fat gram counters? Low Carb Intelligence. 1. Knowing that fat loss or gain always did and always will boil down to the fact that if you eat more than you burn you will gain weight. If you eat fewer calories than you burn you will lose weight. 2. Taking the time to understand the caloric value of the foods that you're eating. 3. Learning to eat appropriate single servings instead of supersizing everything. 4. Keeping a food journal and taking some time to pre-plan and avoiding mindless boredom or stress eating. 5. Knowing that the June issue of Consumer Reports shows that low-carb versions of comfort foods, bread, pasta, and ice cream, often contain more fat and calories than regular versions. Low Carb Stupidity. Carbohydrates make you fat, protein makes you lose weight. We all know who started this one. People have somehow gotten it into their heads that weight gain is all about the carb grams, not the calories. People who quote this myth won't touch a potato, 100 calories, 0 grams fat, but then proceed to eat a 16 ounces steak for dinner, 915 calories, 57 grams fat. They'll refuse the hamburger bun, 120 calories, 2 grams fat, but take an extra meat patty to make up for it, 500 calories, 32 grams fat. Low Carb Intelligence. 1. Realizing that if you eat more than you burn you will get fat, regardless of the source. 2. Realizing that if you eat less and you will lose weight. 3. Knowing that some people on low-carb diets do lose weight initially, but this is due primarily to the fact that they have cut overall calories or have lost an abundance of water and lean muscle. 4. Understanding that overdosing on protein and cutting out carbohydrates does not equal successful weight loss. It does, however, mean missing out on vital nutrients from healthy carbohydrate foods, which should be part of any well-balanced diet. If you're considering a low-carb diet, remember to count your calories and nutrients first. You should also consult your doctor or health professional before making this lifestyle change. Low Carb Stupidity. Eating lots of manufactured, over-processed, chemical-laden low-carb foods and thinking you're being good and following your diet. Low Carb Intelligence. Realizing that natural, unrefined foods are one of the keys to lifelong weight control and that anything man-made and refined is neither healthy or an ideal diet food. This bandwagon reminds me of the no-fat craze, when all those fat-free foods were being passed off as healthy diet food but were really highly processed and full of pure sugar and sodium. Low Carb Stupidity. Selecting your beer or liquor carefully to make sure you have the brand with the fewest grams of carbs. Low Carb Intelligence. 1. Realizing that a few grams of carbs don't make all that much of a difference and that most low-carb beers have the same caloric content as light beers. Avoiding alcohol if you're trying to lose body fat. 2. Drinking only in moderation if you're trying to lose weight and be healthy. Low Carb Stupidity. Thinking that very low-carb, ketogenic dieting is a maintainable lifestyle. Low Carb Intelligence. 1. Understanding that reasonable, moderate restriction of carbs can be a helpful short-term strategy for fat loss, a legitimate method to control appetite, and an effective way for some people to control insulin. 2. Understanding that there are no bad foods, only inappropriate amounts. 3. Understanding that the fact that most Americans eat when they are not hungry and don't stop when they are full, not carbs, are the reason that 66% of Americans are overweight. 4. Understanding that a balanced diet of natural foods is probably the most suitable of all the diets for health, lifelong maintenance and weight control. Low Carb Stupidity, believing that if you cut your carbs you do not need to exercise to lose weight and maintain that loss long term. Low Carb Intelligence, knowing that dieting is the worst way to lose fat and that exercise in combination with a healthy, balanced diet is the best way to lose fat permanently. Low Carb Stupidity, using the argument, there's no such thing as an essential carbohydrate, as justification for low-carb dieting. Low Carb Intelligence, realizing that textbook definitions of essential can be taken out of context to promote a fad diet, and that just because there's technically no essential carbohydrates, as there are essential amino acids and fatty acids, doesn't mean carbohydrates aren't essential in other respects. Low Carb Stupidity, using the argument, you have to eat fat to lose fat, as justification for a high-fat, low-carb diet, without explaining it or putting it in context, exactly how much fat and what kind of fat. Low Carb Intelligence, understanding the importance of essential and omega-3 fats, the good fats, but not taking any single nutritional principle to an extreme, such as, if a little fat is good for you then a lot is even better. Low Carb Stupidity, not clarifying your definition of low carbs. Low Carb Intelligence. 1. Realizing that there are very low carb diets, low carb diets, and moderate carb diets, and that you cannot classify them all together. Some people consider the zone diet, at 40% of calories from carbs, a low carb diet, others consider 40% carbs quite high. 2. Understanding the importance of carbs, as a portion of your total caloric intake. Low Carb Stupidity, thinking that all carbs are bad. Low Carb Intelligence, understanding that there is quite a difference between an over-processed refined donut and a wholesome, nutrient-laden potato. Low Carb Stupidity, going on the Atkins diet, or any other very low-carb, ketogenic diet, with absolutely no idea why you're doing it or how it works, going on it because everybody is doing it and because you see it advertised everywhere. Low Carb Intelligence. Understanding that most of the weight loss is due to fluid loss. Realizing that Americans eat an average of 200 calories a day more than they did 10 years ago and move far less. Understanding that if you eat 10 calories a day more than your body needs you will gain 10 pounds a year, and blaming carbs for the weight gain. Understanding that unless you make changes towards an overall healthful lifestyle most people will gain all their weight back the minute they go off the diet. Low Carb Stupidity, believing that if you eat zero net carbs, you will lose weight, won't gain weight. Buying into the carb counting craze, food manufacturers have come out with a new term to sell their products. Net carbs is a deceptive way to count only the negligible carbohydrates that come from artificial sweeteners and sugar alcohols, and ignore the others from starch and regular sugars. Low Carb Intelligence. Realizing that sugar, alcohol and fiber are not nothing, they still have calories. Understanding that low-carb labels are meaningless. In manufacturing low-carb products, sugars are replaced with unnaturally high concentrations of sugar alcohols, refined grains, and starches, all of which are carbohydrates and contribute to caloric intake. 3. Understanding that because these replacement carbs move through the small intestine without getting absorbed, manufacturers subtract them from the carb content. That's the net carbs number listed on the product label. 4. Realizing that the recent focus on low carbs will continue to draw people away from healthy eating and just provide them with another excuse to live off junk food. 5. Remember, any low net carb claim is diverting your attention away from the fat and calorie content of a food. Bonus: Atkins diet health risks. Made nuisance in the late 20th century, this weight loss program created by an American nutritionist and guru has attracted plenty of individuals regardless of age and gender. Even with all the followers it had for that aim to shed off some pounds, it still received countless of criticisms by medical experts saying that such ketonic diet scheme will most likely lead to problems that will affect in the long run of application. Before going into the cons, which is the meat of this article, here is a brief overview of how it really works. The purpose of which is really to change the metabolism by eating foods that are high in protein and limiting the intake of foods that are high in carbohydrates. Raising the blood sugar to another level is most likely the tendency. 1. Dr. Chris Rosenblum of the American Dietetic Association (ADA) said that one of the Atkins diet health risks is that it trails down some muscle mass, which is important to be able to produce the movements of the body. It is also encourages little consumption of the fruits, grains and vegetable that has been proven to be a good source for fiber or phytochemicals. 2. The American Dietetic Association advises that a person should only lose 1 to 2 pounds per week. Another issue of the Atkins diet health risks is that there is a sudden and drastic failure of 5 pounds or even more in just 7 days. They are also against the intake of high in fat because it increases cholesterol that leads to conditions such as heart attacks. 3. In an evaluation released by the American Institute for Cancer Research, their assessment on the Atkins health risks were quite alarming. According to them, the ketogenic diet tends to promote the loss of water weight. If such will be maintained, the body soon alters to the fasting state where it begins to break down tissues instead of the fat. It can be fatal where the aftermaths are bad breath, nausea, dehydration, headaches, irritability and kidney problems. 4. Another of the Atkins diet health risks is that it restricts carbohydrates where it causes gastrointestinal difficulties such as constipation. Also, the huge amounts of cholesterol and saturated fat prescribed can usher to an increase of heart disease and worse, cancer. There was recent study which featured excessive protein can percolate calcium from the bones that gives rise to osteoporosis. 5. The major pitfall of such program is that it encourages the person to learn some very basic weight management techniques such as portion control and serving sizes, but never the development of a lifetime balanced nutrition. It is more than one of the Atkins diet health risks because chances are, that individual will go back to his or her previous weight and chances, psychological issues will follow such as depression. Thanks for watching. Why not leave a comment below and let me know what you think. And if you liked this video, share the love and give it a thumbs up. See you next time.